So at some point, I was like, you know what? I keep saying I want to work in the climate space, but at the end of the day, I'm a fashion brand. And I'm telling people, come and buy. In my opinion, the most sustainable thing you can do is consume less. Any effort to change is hard at first. I mean, even if you need to show up to the gym every day, it's hard at first. But people who follow it through for some time, it becomes a habit. And it could be the simplest thing. It could be carrying your own bottle.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pramod, and you're listening to Sustainably Curious. In this episode, I chat with Arundhati Kumar, a former corporate leader, founder of the sustainable brand Beej, and someone who now helps others tell honest stories and build more thoughtful practices around sustainability. We talk about sustainability as something personal, not perfect, about habits that stick, the discomfort of climate conversations, and how our intentions often get buried under everyday convenience. It's a thoughtful conversation about small shifts, honest choices, and finding your own way in a world that's changing fast. Let's get into it. Hey, Arundhati, thanks so much for taking time and joining me today. Let's dive in. Would love to know when somebody meets you and asks you what you're doing, how do you answer today?
I think I struggled because for 5 years I had a very practiced response. Hi, my name is Arundhati and I'm the founder of Beej. So it was said so many thousand times I think that it just used to roll off my tongue. And now I have to step back and say, hi, I'm an entrepreneur. I work in the climate space. I am an activist. I do a bunch of things. So I think depending on who I'm meeting, my intro kind of
Yeah.
changes a little now. I'm still trying to find what my next intro should be like.
Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, so we did an exercise. Me and my wife went to this workshop recently where we explored this question of who are you. So it's like, we typically tend to say about our work, but that probably doesn't just define us. Like we are a lot
Yeah.
more than just that. So, um, but anyway, but like, our audience, it'll be great for them to know a bit about your journey. So, who's Arundhati? Like, what's been the journey so far?
Sure. So I've been a corporate professional for 18 years, and then in 2019, I just said, this is enough. I want to
Yeah.
do something else. And honestly, in my journey, I have these this is enough moments quite often. And I'm like, okay, now this is enough. Pause. Now what next? So it was something like that. I'd already been head of HR of a company. I used to head consulting practice for something. And then, um, in the consulting practice, interestingly, we used to talk a lot about leadership traits because I was into leadership consulting. So one of the themes we used to explore is ambition. So what is ambition? And there was a very nice definition that we would use. That is, what's more to you than there is already? That's ambition. And I was like, you know what, being an HR head of a small company, medium company, big company, that can't be what there is to me. There has to be more. So I think that's how I started exploring. And sustainability was an interest area of mine. Not so much fashion or anything, just the climate space. I think what was happening, back in 2019, the murmurs were much lesser, but they were still there. And I used to just perpetually worry about the fact that, by the time my daughter grows up, the world's going to be a hard place. So all of that, right? I was trying to think, what can I do and stuff like that. And interestingly, my father is into leather. He's a leather exporter. It was also the time there were conversations around, come and join the family business. I'm the only daughter. He's 80 now, was around 75 then. Uh, so I started, looking for alternatives. So I like to say this. My business started on a Google search, sustainable alternatives to leather, literally.
Wow.
And like this whole world opened up of things I had never heard of, I didn't know of. So I spent some time researching all these materials, and I was like, why is no one in India doing it? Why is no one in India talking about it? And that's the time the alternate material space was practically non-existent in India, like 5 years ago. So my first idea was to go to my father and say, hey, listen, I think we need to pivot. If you want me to take over the business, let's kind of transition to this. So he, of course, heard me very patiently, and he said, you know what? Leather is not going anywhere in my lifetime. It's not even going anywhere in your lifetime. And, I've spent 50 years building this business. It's a profitable business. It makes money. I'm not changing it anytime soon. So I was like, all right. And he stays in Kolkata, I stay in Bombay. So I said, fair enough, I'll start off something of my own. And that's literally how Beej started.
Oh,
And that's really how much thought I gave the business. And I said, all right, let's do this. And
yeah.
then I built Beej for over 5 years. We did well. We were first of our kind in India. We were an award-winning brand. A lot of good things happened with the brand. Also, what happened with the brand is my own perspective and worldview of the space changed because I was exposed to so much more. I learned so much more. I studied so much more. I saw so much more. I was able to connect the dots much better. So at some point, I was like, you know what? I keep saying I want to work in the climate space, but at the end of the day, I'm a fashion brand. And
Yeah.
I'm telling people, come and buy. And I am, constantly my team is telling me, you need to do discounts, you need to do sale, you need to run promotions because at the end of the day, it's a D2C business. And
Yeah.
like every business, there are a set of rules. If you're in the business, you got to play by the rules. That dissonance really started bothering me at some point, and I was like, you know what, this is cannot be it. So that's why in July last year, I kind of took a step back.
Mhm.
I said, all right, I've got to see what I want to build now for the next 5 years. And since then, I've done a lot of consulting. I have, worked on films. Climate communication is a big interest area of mine, so I work in that space. I am working on two new ideas, which are also in the climate space, but with potentially much higher impact. So that's what I do. I used to do as a job. Other than that, I talk a lot in this space. I write a lot in this space. I raise a teenager, which is a full-time job. I also manage two dogs.
Oh, nice.
I am hugely into fitness, so all of that takes up a lot of my time if I am not working.
And curious to know, like the name Beach. Any story behind that? Like, how did you come up with that name? Or the seed behind it?
So I wanted it to be an Indian name because the fact that Indian brands have names that sound like, no offense, but sound like Da Milano or something really used to like bother me. I'm like, why do we not have a brand which is from India, rooted in India? That was number
Yeah,
one.
got it.
I wanted it to be unisex, easy to pronounce.
Yeah,
And Beej in this sense stands for seed
yeah,
in Sanskrit, and it's the origin of all life forms. So human, plant, animal, everything. So for us, it was also about respect and coexistence with all life forms. So that's how Beej came about.
got it. And like you mentioned, somewhere along the journey, and you had a great journey with Beach. It was doing well, winning awards, like great customers and all that. But somewhere there was a shift where you felt there was some conflict internally, right? And it's always hard to let go of what you've built. So walk
Yeah.
us through that moment because you built this business for years and then you had to, yeah, you've probably felt disconnected from it. So what did that feel like? And coming to that hard decision of I need to step back, it's a bold decision. So how did you go about arriving at that?
I think it's a bit of my superpower. I can build and step back and build again.
Mm.
But having said that, I can tell you that it's never easy.
Yeah.
Also, not just because you built it, I think you also get used to the
Mm.
adulation,
Yeah.
you know, anything. It could be press, it could be people, it could be customers. You also get used to the fact that people are constantly reaching out to you. So there is a rhythm you get used to, right?
Mm.
And then when you decide to step back, and also for most founders building, your business becomes a very large part of your identity. Like I said, like for me, my identity was I was the founder of Beej. So suddenly when you have to step back, you're like, okay, now who am I? Now what do I do? Now what do I say? Kind of a thing, right? So I think that's a struggle. But when we decided to close, I had also decided in my head that we're not going to cry about this. We are going to absolutely celebrate it because it has been 5 fantastic years. Not the easiest years, but really good in terms of just very wholesome years, right? So everything we did, including our communication to our community, and we have a very strong organic community on Instagram. To everybody, it was like, you know what, please don't cry about the brand shutting. Really celebrate it, really go shop, really, you know, tell us how you uh, enjoyed the journey with us the last 5 years. So I can tell you the last 1.5, 2 months, were my best years at the studio, best time at the studio. I used to go do nothing, right? Sales are crazy because people are shopping, shopping, shopping. Like people really keep and shop. Everybody is sending me texts, messages, love, videos. So it was just one party. We did a massive photo shoot with the crew, with my team when we shut down. So I was very clear that we are not crying over this.
Got it.
And I didn't want anyone to cry, not my team, not my customers, none of it. So did it feel crazy the day I kind of just, dismantled the studio? Yes, you do feel out of sorts. Oh, but it wasn't so bad, I think. It was okay. I decided to celebrate it. So yeah.
Very nice outlook towards that. And one more question on that. So I think, like you said, it's a plant-based leather bags product, right? Like, and one angle of looking at it is people are going to buy leather bags, and what
Yeah.
you set out to do was that behavior is probably going to grow, but you'll make that with an alternative. So in a way,
Yeah.
it was with a sustainability lens, but at the
Yeah, of
same time,
course.
you felt conflicted. So tell me a bit more about what was the conflict.
In my opinion, the most sustainable thing you can do is consume less.
Nice. Yeah.
So, really, I think buy less, buy better, use longer, because I don't think we can sustainably consume ourselves out of the corner we've painted ourselves into,
Yeah.
right? The only way is if everybody cuts down consumption by half
Hmm.
is, I think, is the only way we have any hope. So was it a step in the right direction? The answer is yes. If someone was buying, could they have bought a better alternative? Is it
Yeah.
there a lower carbon footprint? All of that, the answer is yes. But two things. I think one is honestly, plant-based leather is still not a scalable business in India
Mhm.
for multiple reasons. I think the price points, the awareness, people's willingness to really keep, planet at the center of their shopping decisions, all of it put together, right? So we were the first brand. After us, multiple brands have come up, and I know every founder in this space. So I follow the journey of every brand in this space. It's a hard space. And I think it's going to continue to be a hard space for some time. So that was one, but also just I mean, I really think if you really, really want to be sustainable, you can't say I'm buying, I'm going to go overboard buying five linen shirts or five hemp shirts because it is better than polyester. I would say
Yeah.
don't buy one shirt.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's not a very healthy outlook for a fashion founder to have.
Yeah. Yeah. No, makes sense. I think, and having been through the startup journey, I think a lot of times the growth sort of becomes the core function of it, and that I
Yeah.
understand is also sometimes you have to question, like, growth at all costs. Like, does that even make sense or not? Yeah.
Also, trade-offs. I think as a
Yeah.
founder, you need to be very clear about the trade-offs you're making in your head. So
Mhm.
I could have easily told myself that, hey, listen, I'm giving people a better alternative,
Mhm.
but the business needs to be of a certain scale. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's not a passion project, it's a business.
Correct.
So it needs to be of a certain scale. And I could have gone that direction.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years earlier when I started, that was my thinking. But it just shifted over time. And then it stopped making sense.
And I want to pick up a thread like linked to this. So in a recent talk, you mentioned that nobody wants climate change, right? And we are just trying to
Yeah.
move by, like, our life, and trying to make choices that from a sea of like bad options, right?
Bad
And trying to
options.
make the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
So that really stuck with me. And so tell me more about why do you think it's so hard for us to make better choices or act towards like making the planet better?
I think it's got to do with the fact that as human beings, we don't like being inconvenienced. Because we are creatures of habit. And like I said, in that talk, at the end of the day, as human beings, we attribute a lot to intention. So it's not my intention to harm the planet, but I have a job, I have home, I have kids, I have things to manage. And if something is cheaper, lesser demand on my time, mind space, is convenient, and, is just something I'm habituated to, I will do it. If as an outcome it affects the planet, that's not my intention. So
Yeah.
hence it is just collateral damage. I think that's how most of us look at it. We also put an additional layer to it to say that, hey, listen, I mean, look at all the people out there and everything they're doing. So what additional difference does this make? I think that's also something we tell ourselves over and over again.
Yeah.
But mostly I have found that people who are intentional uh, take the effort to change. Any effort to change is hard at first. I mean, even if you need to show up to the gym every day, it's hard at first.
Yeah.
But people who follow it through for some time, it becomes a habit. And it could be the simplest thing. It could be carrying your own bottle. I mean, in my mind, it's a no-brainer.
Yes.
But why do people not do it? Because you have to start. And for the first 15, 20 days, you have to remind yourself, every time I go out, I need to carry that bottle. By the 21st day, it becomes a habit. Once it becomes your habit, it will become your child's habit. But you've got to be intentional about it. I think that's where and we also tell ourselves, I mean, this whole thing that we tell ourselves, we are too busy, we have too much, our lives are hard. I think that we've just talked ourselves into that space. Yeah.
So, I think like you also mentioned that there's no one defined starting point
Yeah.
in the talk, right? And I think it all comes down to intention. A lot of times, the intention is subconscious. It doesn't surface up, like, in a
Yeah.
sense that, like you mentioned the water bottle. It's actually a habit that, once you become aware of it and you start doing it, it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has good intention, but they probably don't surface this intention at all, because it's so easy to find a water bottle anywhere today. You go to a restaurant, there's a
Yeah.
water bottle kept
Yeah.
on the table, right? So I think one is just slowing down essentially to think of some of these choices. I think it's hard to pause in life today where everything is so convenient,
So fast.
accessible.
Yeah.
So in a world that is only getting more convenient, right? What do you think will help more people become aware of these intentions and start taking small actions?
I don't know why people are not aware already. I mean, honestly, I don't get it. Because I sometimes think, what would it take for you to start taking action? And I have a feeling
Yeah.
I mean, I'm taking the example of COVID. It's a very bad example, and but we all started acting
Yeah.
when we started feeling like the danger is at our doorstep. And it can happen to me, it can happen to my family, it can happen to my loved ones. I'm seeing it happen to my neighbor. I think that's when people kind of spurred into action, right?
Yeah.
We are still thinking the flood is somewhere else, the wildfire is somewhere else, the earthquake is somewhere else, something is somewhere else. The AQI is bad in Delhi, Bombay is okay. We're still thinking it's not happening to us. But I don't think we realize it's going to happen to us very soon. And I don't like saying this, but God forbid tomorrow if your child, let's say, develops something because of pollution or breathing or bad food, it's then as a parent that you will start noticing that, oh my God, pollution is everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, plastic is everywhere. Oh my God, this is happening. So, like I said, different starting points. That starting point could be a health related trigger. It could be a fact that maybe somewhere in the place that you live, the place has been hugely affected by climate change. So those triggers are what are going to kind of propel people to change. Now, the point is, do we really need those triggers?
Yeah.
Do we need something to come and disrupt our lives in such horrible ways for us to start acting?
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to.
Correct.
But I feel like that may be the case. It might be the case.
Yeah. And one of the things that I feel is, the more we, like you said, like, the more we do it, or maybe our let's say our child sees it and then inculcates that habit, or like neighbors see it and like get inspired by doing that. So I think more action only results in more action, and also talking about it.
Also talking about it, yeah, yeah, because in a situation like this, I mean, there's enough and more research to say that when communities talk about stuff, that's when those problems start appearing as problems to the community. So
Yeah.
the moment you choose not to talk about it, essentially what you're cueing is it's not important, or it's not a threat, or there's nothing we need to fix here. So you are thinking that I'm not going to talk about it because, and a lot of people think about it individually, but you don't want to have those conversations because they don't make for great dinner conversations. Yeah, it's a killjoy. You don't want to go and talk about climate or sustainability in a group. And so, but the fact that many of us think about it and many of us don't talk about it, what we are essentially queuing as a group is that, hey, listen, it's all right.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem yet.
Yeah. And yeah, like you mentioned, it comes across as awkward in conversations, like in a group setting sometimes. Why is that? And like any funny examples of it?
Many. I mean, I can give you hajar dating examples of people who have judged me um, because they ask me what I do, and then I say, "Hey, I work in the climate space," and then they'll raise their eyebrows and be like, what does that even mean?" And then I'll say something, and then they'll do something extremely inappropriate, like maybe order a bottle of water, and then I would say, "Why can't we have house water?" I don't know, many such examples of especially when I meet people and they're like, why are you doing this? Even a lot. I think I give an example of my daughter who cringes because when she's out with me and I'll make one of these comments, she just look at me, she's like, why can't we just be normal? Like, why can't you just not say anything? So I tell her that, you need to say it's okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, people judge you all the time.
And you've worked in the last 1 year on climate communications, right? Like, what have
Yeah.
been some learnings on, normalizing this, or like, where you've seen change happen as well? Yeah.
I think you need to make it simple. You also need to make it very relatable in the sense that I don't understand if you say climate change is happening, but if you help me see how it is playing out in my context,
Yeah.
in the place I live, in the job I do, in the community I function, then people understand it much better. Because I have realized instinctively everybody realizes something is happening.
Yeah.
Summers are getting warmer, rains are getting, harsher, weather is changing. You go to the hills, the locals will tell you that, there's not enough snow, there's not enough this. So everybody, whether it's urban, whether it's rural, educated, uneducated, people who know the term climate change or not, instinctively, everybody understands that something is changing. So, how do you help them see what is happening, why it is happening? Could you be playing a role in it directly or indirectly? And hence, what can you do? I think that is very important. Also, I feel like when individuals feel like I am too small to make a change, or I do not have the agency or the power to make a change, that's very anxiety inducing because then we are literally saying that, hey, we are stuck in a world that's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything about it. So the minute people start feeling that, hey, change is possible and we can do something, whatever, it could be anything. It could be composting your food waste. It could be just ensuring that you're not consuming any single use plastic, anything.
Yeah.
I think people just feel like, okay, we can do something about it. And honestly, that's not easy because all around you, you see the world is like
Yeah.
falling apart.
Yeah, and I've been through that phase. I mean, stayed with that phase for like a year plus, where felt that I, as an individual, what can I do to
Yeah,
change this, right? And or
yeah,
anything that I do will not have an impact. But I think the moment, for me at least, it shifted, saying that okay, let me go through with that journey and then talk about it. And then we heard like me and my wife, we met someone who 1 month later talked about something that they implemented because they heard it from us. So it just
Nice.
felt like, it's a small impact. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but it felt good. And I think that just inspired us to, like, talk more about it and small things that
yeah,
we do,
yeah.
right? And now I think, you still live with, okay, how can we create more impact? But I think, like, at least start somewhere and see it, like, grow over time, right? And it doesn't have to be like a huge impact right from day zero, but how can we make a small change and talk about it so that others can implement and see where it goes from there?
Even how can you influence the conversation? I think it's a very
Yeah.
big thing.
Mhm.
Today, if your podcast is just able to get 10 more people talking
Yeah.
about it, and those 10 more people can get 10 more people talking about it,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what we need essentially.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, so the previous podcast, it was with this founder of FluxGen, and we shared it. And one of my ex-colleagues applied to join FluxGen. I don't know how the
Flux,
interview went, but she got to know about the story and then applied there. So these are small things. I think, like, more people
yeah,
switching to the
nice, yeah,
domain is also a great step. So, but yeah, like, I'd love to know more about Reverse the Stripes.
yeah, sure. So Reverse the Stripes actually started as a climate awareness initiative while Beej was still there.
Okay. Mhm.
So it it comes from the climate stripes,
Mhm.
and Professor Ed Hawkins and his stripes are
Yeah.
just symbolic of climate and how it has shifted. And the idea was, can we go back from red to blue and hence reverse the stripes? It's of course
Okay.
now a patented name that
Yeah.
we have. But the whole idea was, how do we start conversations within individuals, within communities, within small groups, within corporates to say,
Yeah.
how do we, when you talk of climate change, there are largely two angles to it. One is adaptation and one is mitigation.
Yeah.
I feel we over index on adaptation,
Hmm.
saying now this has happened, let's adapt for it. But there isn't enough conversation around mitigation.
Yeah.
So this is more about mitigation, saying, guys, what can we do at the design stage, at the action stage, at
Hmm.
an individual stage, to not even let it get there. I
Yeah.
think that's how it started. And we started it about 2.5 years, 3 years ago, I think. We
Mhm.
built a whole accessory range around Reverse the Stripes. We
Nice.
partnered with a bunch of businesses who had designed products with the stripes as a theme and stuff like that. So that's how it started for me.
Mhm.
And then when I decided to shut Beej, I just decided to keep the name from a consulting perspective.
Mhm.
I like the name a lot. And I said, okay,
Very
let
nice.
me just stay with this. And hence, my consulting firm is called Reverse the Stripes. And what we do is I work with a lot of businesses who are setting up in the sustainable space. And it could be beauty, fashion, anything, a lifestyle business, home, decor, just to say that how do you um, make sustainability, how do you integrate it into your story,
Mhm.
how do you integrate it into your products, your supply chain, your packaging, all of it. So that's one of the things I do. I also work with larger corporates on their storytelling. So if they have a strong sustainability slash climate impact element to their business,
Yeah.
how do we bring it out? And it could be for employees, it could be for investors, anybody, clients, customers, internal, external stakeholders. That's something I do.
Yeah.
I am building something in the event space.
Got it.
So zero carbon,
Mhm.
carbon neutral events, again, end to end.
Mhm.
So bunch of things, right? Bunch
Yeah.
of things that I've learned over the last 5, 6 years. That's what we do at Reverse the Stripes.
And when it comes to climate communications, like you said, you work with brands and corporates around storytelling, right? What do you think is missing today and or is challenging for brands or corporates to bring out this story in a way that resonates with, like, customers?
I think the first thing is that the story needs to be real. I
Hmm.
mean, I say this to a lot of brands, that you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You don't have to be doing everything.
Hmm.
You do not have to go to the market saying we are 100% sustainable. You can take that home.
Hmm.
So, but whatever you do,
Hmm.
start small,
Yeah.
build it with intent, and be honest about it. I
Hmm.
think there is a group of customers out there who are becoming incredibly climate conscious today, and that actually cuts across age groups, demographics, all of that, right? It doesn't. It's not a function of how much money you have. It's not a function of how old you are, but just a group of people who are increasingly concerned, and they kind of align and resonate with brands who are trying to do something, but are trying to do it the right way and with complete honesty. So, because we also live in a world where greenwashing is abundant, we
Yeah.
also live in a world where it is so hard to believe claims. It is so hard to verify anything a brand says. So, so if you are doing something, how do you put that across in a manner that's most authentic and something that you'll follow through? I mean, you can't say I'm going to plant trees because it's World Environment Day. So whole of June when you shop from us, we'll plant trees. But in July we will not do anything. July we'll do a flash sale. So that just doesn't make sense. So how do you also have consistency in what you say? How does your story stack up? Like,
Yeah.
I think all of that is what I kind of work with.
Got it. And any examples, I mean, without revealing the brand names and all, but like any examples where this has worked out very well and, they were maybe not doing this more of it before, but you saw like great success with it. Yeah.
Not really. I haven't worked with any such brands. I have worked with a bunch of startups actually who are now setting up, and it's honestly is easier for startups because they start with this philosophy at the core, so they can build it into their systems and processes at the very beginning. I think it's harder for bigger
Yeah.
established brands because honestly, unless sustainability is core to your business and it makes commercial sense, the unit economics of
Yeah.
it add up, it is hard to do it at a continuous level. You'll start it, uh, you know, it will be very topical. You'll do something around it, then you'll stop it because it will stop making money sense.
Correct.
So, for larger brands to find that balance between the kind of margins they are used to, the kind of business they're used to, and bring this in is much harder.
Yeah. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. And I think you touched briefly on the talk as well that there's a myth around sustainability or sustainable living requires a lot of sacrifice. But you touched upon, I think, ways in which it doesn't have to be like that, like the water bottle example. In your own like day-to-day life, apart from the example that you gave, what else have you changed? That you'd like to talk about? Yeah.
We compost at home. All our food waste is now composted. And I have to say that, like many, many people, I shied away from it for many, many years because I was like, I live in Mumbai, I live in a two-bedroom flat, it's going to be smelly, I don't have the time, who's
Yeah.
going to do it? Also, we are a small two-member family, how much waste is there going to be? Many, many reasons I gave myself for a very long time, although I was very aware of composting. Till I don't know what happened to me one day, I went and bought a composter from Daily Dump. And then when I started doing it, I was like, oh my God, this is so simple. And this is great.
Yeah.
And there is no smell. And why wasn't I doing it earlier? And I actually have a lot of plants in my house. So now I'm most happy because they thrive on the compost. So I think we started composting, even, small things like which we do not code as climate actions, just
Yeah.
ensuring you switch off your lights,
Hmm.
just ensuring when you're working in the kitchen or you're working or you're in the washroom, the tap is not on, and it's not continuously on, or just ensuring that your AC is regulated at a certain temperature. The fact that every time you buy something, you are a little conscious saying, do I really need this?
Yeah.
Please, can we just buy what we absolutely need? And I am not saying live the life of give up on all worldly pleasures. I'm not saying that. But I am saying be mindful. I am saying, and I say this to my daughter also. You want to buy something, please absolutely buy it, but do you really need it?
Yeah.
And if you want to buy something, then buy something which is of a better quality and you will use it for a longer time.
Yeah.
Just ensuring that everything that's in our house at the end of life, be it our books, our clothes, everything, we organize it, we make sure we give it away, we make sure it's clean. So I think very small stuff. And maybe, like I said, maybe many people already do a lot of this. We
Yeah.
are just not able to see the correlation to climate.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you don't waste food,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
or just the fact that when you eat, you prefer to eat local
Hmm.
or seasonal vegetables. Everything is climate action at the end of the day.
It's funny that a lot of these, like when I look back at my parents' habits, were already doing this.
Yeah, they were fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I, we are consciously trying to bring back some of those habits. Like we have two dogs as well, so we take them for a walk every morning, and
Yeah,
we're trying to go to the local vegetable vendor as often as possible rather than be always like ordering last minute.
yeah,
That said, we do order, and that's completely fine, I think. But as much as possible, we plan and then take that extra 200 meters walk to actually shop vegetables from the local vendor. I think that's great. Like, just small changes like that. Like we felt good, like, making that change. Like,
and once a few things become consistent,
yeah,
then move on to the next thing. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like if you try and, like I say, it's not binary. It's not a zero or one
yeah,
equation. I think most people code it that way. That I have to do everything, or then what's the point? Let me do nothing.
yeah,
For most people, it's not binary.
yeah.
There can be some things you will do, some things you just cannot do. For example, I'm happy to be conscious about my food,
Mm,
but I'm just not happy to give up on my fashion, for example.
yeah.
It's all right.
That's
Start
okay.
with the
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Start with something else you're okay to work on.
mhm,
You'll get to fashion when you'll get to fashion.
yeah.
Yeah,
You rightly pointed out that we are all climate hypocrites, but that's okay. I think that's a
that's
great
okay.
philosophy. A lot of times there's a guilt around I need to completely give away or like, live very differently. And that probably is a blocker for a lot of people to just start making that shift. While, you can consciously change some of the decisions and slowly over time it can compound. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have a few fun or light questions. So,
okay.
given you've been an entrepreneur in the space and also in climate communications, right? Like, what has given you hope, like a moment recently or anything that you've come across that gives you hope for future? Yeah. Sorry, maybe that's not a light question.
No, I think honestly, in my interactions, promote a lot of people. I think a lot of people are looking for inspiration in this space, to be
Mm,
honest. They are looking for direction. They are looking for someone to come and help simplify it for them and say,
yeah.
hey, listen, this is what you can do. And I get a lot of DMs on my social media, on my LinkedIn or on my Instagram, where people write to me saying, hey, listen, you spoke about this and it resonated with me, or I'm trying to do this, or, I live in a joint family and I'm now trying to convince my parents or everybody else in the house this is how I should do it. I think there is a movement brewing, to be honest. Is it a mainstream movement? Not yet. But
Yeah.
is it brewing in the fringes? Are more and more people beginning to think about it? The answer is yes. And that's hopeful. Now, how do we bring them all together? How do we kind of amplify the change? How do we hasten the change? I think that's
Yeah.
important because we're still not changing fast enough,
Yeah.
for
That's correct.
sure. So yes, there is hope. Is there enough hope for me to think that we are saved from doom? Maybe not yet,
Mhm.
but yeah, for sure, there's hope.
Got it. And you did talk about, like, I think if I remember correctly, you said people need to be aware and then acknowledge, and then that leads to like actions, right? When it comes to awareness, I know, like, I've gone through Terra course. You've also been part of the Terra community. Um, are there any sources that you would recommend people to start just being aware about the things, that are problems in the space? Yeah.
I think Terra, to be honest, and I've also done a course with the 1.5 Academy. Courses like Terra and OPF are very technical.
Yeah.
They are about people who are trying to transition into these
Yeah.
into these jobs, roles, who want to bring climate and sustainability at the center of their careers and things like that. I don't think to take action, all of us need to understand, greenhouse gas accounting or carbon footprinting or life cycle analysis. We don't need to.
Yeah.
If we just start reading the damn newspaper,
Yeah.
like it's there every day. I have the Hindustan Times in Mumbai. Every day, the second page of the paper has something called the climate tracker.
Mhm.
And it talks about something that is happening in the space. It will talk about biodiversity loss. It will talk about the fact that we are losing our glaciers, floods,
Yeah.
this, that, crops, health, something. Can we just start reading? Can we just start connecting the dots? Can we just start looking around us as to what's happening? I think information is everywhere. I don't think the problem is there are lack of information sources. I think the problem is we just skim past them.
Yeah.
We don't read them enough. We don't process them because that's the thing about climate change. Once you know it, because it is such a collective problem, it's on your conscience if you do nothing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like knowing that, hey, listen, there's a crime happening, but I'm not going to stop it.
Correct.
So most people prefer not to engage with it because then I can say, I don't know. Hey, listen, I'm just going by life.
Yeah.
I have so many things to do. I'm a busy person.
It's not my
So
problem, kind of.
it's not my problem. I don't even know anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? And that's my theory on it. Most people just skim through it because it's the more convenient thing to do.
Yeah.
The moment you really understand the gravity of the situation, then you're very compelled to do something. And once you know it, you can't unknow it.
Yeah.
That's also the problem with this, right?
Correct.
Once you know it, you just know it. Then what are you going to do? Either you're going to ignore it,
Yeah,
or you're going to do something about it. Both of which are hard.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, hopefully more people do something about it as we go along. What's something you're still figuring out?
I don't know what I want to do for the next 5 years, maybe. I have a plan, but
Yeah. All right. How often do you change the plans? I know you said like,
no, not often, but I do change. I do change tracks every 5 to 7 years. Once I have decided, then yeah, for the next 5 to 7 years, I do that. But I also feel that 5 7 years is a long time. Our worldview. So I can tell you, we were my daughter and I were driving around the Mumbai Sea Link yesterday, and she was telling me, she just made a very random comment to say that, you know what, I think Bombay will be underwater in 100 years. No, she's a kid. So I told her, I don't think it's going to happen in 100 years. I think that it's going to happen much sooner. I told her to. I said, you cannot even imagine what this world is going to be in the next 20 years because it's changing so rapidly. It's beyond our imagination, really, to think what this world is going to look like. We will obviously very quickly adapt and stuff like that, but can someone really say what the world is going to look like in 20 years? I don't think so.
It's I think more and more the world's changing so fast. I'm like very close to the AI space. Like my previous startup was in AI, and that world like changes every 2 weeks. So
everything changes, right? For the good and the bad both.
Yes.
Everything is so rapid.
Yeah. Well, and if someone's curious but not committed into the space yet, like, what's your recommendation on where should they start taking small actions?
Start about the stuff that bothers you most. If you love to travel, then start up looking at how it's affecting your bucket list of places. If you love to eat, obsess about the fact that your chocolate is going to go away and your coffee is going away. I think you have to find a place that is close to you.
Yeah.
A lot of parents worry because they think it's hard for their kids. So I feel like start anywhere that resonates with you. It could be anywhere. And start seeing the connection, start reading a little, start understanding a little, because this is all pervasive. Like, that's why it's termed a poly crisis. It's not about one thing. It's not just about food or health or, extreme climate events or pollution. It's everything. It
Yeah.
affects our sleep. I mean, one of the things I really, really worry about is that it's changing us as people.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally the heat and the humidity is rewiring our brains. It's making us more angry. It's making us more irritable. It's making us less tolerant, you
Yeah.
know. Just the fact that climate as it plays out is going to put extreme pressure on our resources. There'll be fewer and fewer resources. And we already know as human beings, we don't do well
Yeah.
when there aren't enough resources. We don't do well when there is a scarcity mindset. We are always ready to fight and just behave badly. And we see that happening, right? We see more and more people just, I mean, if the fact that we are going to stop being
Hmm.
good people doesn't bother us, then I don't know what will bother. No amount of research is going to then help because there has been research for 100 years. We have not been listening.
Correct. And being in Bangalore and just getting stuck in traffic itself changes human behavior so much.
Yeah, yeah. I
Quietly.
mean, we see it play out every day, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
calmest of us is just losing our minds. And do we really want that?
Um, And last question, like where can people find you and how can they reach out to you if they want to? Yeah.
Very Googleable. But otherwise, otherwise, on my Instagram handle is Foolishly Brave. They can also reach out to me on my brand handle, which is Studio Beej, or LinkedIn as Arundhati Kumar. Very easy to find.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Arundhati. This was amazing. Got to learn a lot. And thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I don't know how helpful that was, but I
No,
hope
I
it was
enjoyed the conversation and
slightly
I'm sure,
helpful.
yeah, no, I'm sure like our listeners would enjoy as well. So thanks so much.
I think I'll also say that, 5 years ago, I wasn't this person, 5, 6 years ago, right? I was also a very blinkered corporate person,
Yeah.
office, home, life, just had to do stuff. Let's not also expect these changes to be instant. I also feel people who want to get on these journeys, more and more importantly, have to be very, very, very kind to themselves.
Yeah.
We will start, we will stop, we will fall off the wagon, life will happen, or some crisis will take over, we will not be able to do it. And it's all right.
Yeah.
As long as it's somewhere at the back of your mind, you will come back to it over and over again. So I think that's also something I really want to put out there saying, do not expect to get it right the first time and do not think that you cannot if you could not do it.
Yeah.
Like just come back to it. Maybe not don't come back to what you tried the last time. Try something else. There's no
Yeah.
harm.
Yeah, I think keep
Yeah.
iterating as long as there's intention. I think like you'll figure a path, and there'll be ups and downs, obviously, with the journey. But yeah, like trying to apply the same philosophy with the podcast as well.
Yeah. And it's not so hard. And yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much, Arundhati.